All right, all right. Welcome back, friends. How are we today? This is episode number 39 of Real Estate Bites. And today we're going to be talking about earnest money and whether or not it's worthless to have on your contract. Um, I've heard a lot from clients about their thoughts on whether or not, earnest money is the biggest, most frustrating waste of time or ink. And I want to talk about that today because it's become a term that I put a whole lot more weight on as time has gone by. So I'm having some technical difficulties here. Okay, looks like we're back on again. So welcome back. Real Estate Bites episode number 39. Today's topic of the day is earnest money and whether or not it's pointless to put on a contract. So before we really dive into that, let's get over to our weekly chortle and have a little bit of a snicker at the real estate industry. You are not kidding, but you know what? I mean, this is real estate agents are as guilty of this as any lender. As you've seen, anytime you might see on one of the community posts if somebody's looking for an agent, you just see the response. I actually had a meme up here on this program before, talking about how agents just come from nowhere by the trainload to answer that Facebook post. So yeah, lenders will cozy up to real estate agents real quick once they find out that they are a real estate agent. All right, back to the topic at hand. So the earnest money deposit essentially is what we would call a good faith deposit. Good faith money is basically the buyer saying, listen, we're willing to put this kind of deposit up front to show you that we're interested in this property. Earnest money can be contentious when it comes down to a deal that's fallen apart and who gets it. It can be problematic because the only way to really enforce earnest money, if somebody says, I'm willing to put up this amount of money because I'm interested in the home, and then they back out of the deal, but they don't want to, if they're not honorable enough to just say, okay, you know what, I changed my mind, have this earnest money. The only way you can enforce it is in a court of law. So oftentimes that earnest money it's not worth pursuing because it's not enough and you want to get back out on the market. You want to sell the house. So from the perspective of a buyer, why earnest money is important is essentially you're showing this seller that you're interested. I mean, of course you're interested. You wrote an offer, but you're showing the seller, listen, not only am I interested, but I'm willing to put up such and such amount of money. Should I decide to back out, I'm willing to forfeit this money. The other reason from a buyer's perspective that a decent earnest money deposit is worthwhile is it shows the seller that I am qualified enough as a buyer. I'm a good enough buyer that I have the wherewithal to put this amount of money in deposit in escrow right now as we're working towards this deal. And I don't need it for everyday expenses. I don't need it for the rest of my closing costs or to pay for inspection. I have enough money. I have enough in reserve that I can put this amount of money down in deposit at the front end of the deal and continue on and make this thing happen. So the amount of earnest money shows your strength as a buyer. So if you're looking to write a contract and you have a decent amount of money to put down as a down payment, well, you might want to take a nice chunk, especially if you are really serious about the house you're buying. And listen, if you're writing an offer, you should be really serious about it. You should be willing to put down a decent chunk for earnest money to show the seller that you're serious. So let's move on to the seller perspective. And this is where earnest money has really become a much more serious matter for me as an agent representing my seller. I have had a number of deals fall apart over the past year. When a buyer comes in, and typically it's a young buyer, not all the time, but typically it's a young buyer. I would say 35 years old and under, and they're writing an offer on this house, and they get into the process and decide for whatever reason, maybe we got buyer's remorse already. We don't even stepped into the house as owners, and we've already got buyer's remorse, and we want to back out. It just seems that buyers these days, and then again, oftentimes younger buyers, they don't take this as serious as they should. I mean, you are writing an offer on the purchase of a home. This is not, you're not going to Best Buy and picking up a Bluetooth speaker or even a dishwasher that you can return after a couple of days if you don't like the way it performs. You're buying a house. Our contract is 7 pages long, filled with legalese and jargon. I mean, this is a legally binding contract that you are compelled by law to perform according to the terms of the contract. And I've just seen too many deals fall apart because the buyer, in my estimation, really wasn't serious about purchasing this home. They hastily wrote an offer, and you could say maybe there were pressures from whoever or whatever. It doesn't matter. You, as the buyer, are responsible for making that decision. And if you make it with haste, well, then you're probably making based purely on emotion, zero on reason, and that's a bad place to come from. So now, as I'm coaching my sellers through this process, especially if we're in a multiple offer situation, that earnest money deposit all of a sudden becomes much more serious. I want to see more skin in the game from these buyers. I want to see buyers write with more earnest money. If I'm in a multiple offer situation and I'm talking about terms to these buyers agents, earnest money is something that's coming up. Can your people bring more? Can they put more down? A stronger earnest money deposit makes for a stronger offer. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer Agent, you should tell your people to really consider it. And you know why? Because should we get down the road with my seller, should we get down the road in this deal and your buyer decides for whatever reason, they're no longer interested in pursuing this deal, well, you know what? I want there to be enough earnest money on the table that my buyer is willing to hold up the sale of the property to sue your ass to go get it. And that, I don't care how it sounds, that is very serious because Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, here's what you don't seem to understand, especially if you're young and you're coming from, I don't know, an apartment or something. When you write that offer, you get under contract. This seller, who oftentimes has a family, they're making plans. They've got plans to go to a new place oftentimes, to purchase a new home. They need to sell this house to get into their new home. They're scheduling movers. They're scheduling family members to help with the move. They're packing stuff up. They are turning their whole life upside down in preparation for this new chapter. And for you to pull the plug on the deal and pull the rug out from under their feet, I mean, not only are you creating a major disruption in their life, but the amount of stress that you create in their lives, the lack of empathy, the lack of consideration for how you're affecting someone else's life, another family's life, man, that's almost intolerable. And so that earnest money that you are willing to put up on the front of a deal it's become much, much more important for me representing my seller. I want to see more. I want to see more skin in the game from the buyer. Okay. Because should you disturb or disrupt my seller's family's lives to such a degree, because here's a couple of things you don't understand. All these things have a cost to it, whether it's time or money. Oftentimes it's both. And when you incur those sorts of costs from my seller and then pull the plug on the deal, that's what the earnest money is for, is to compensate them for that time and that money that's been lost. And you know, it, I want that earnest money to be significant enough to where if you don't want to be honorable in this situation, if you want to walk away from the deal and keep your earnest money, I want it to be significant enough to where my seller says, you know what, I can wait a month or two or three to resolve this in order to go get that earnest money, so that they'll take you to court and go get that earnest money and sue for whatever other damages their attorney believes that they can get. That is why earnest money is important and has become much more important to me over this past year when I've just had buyers flake. I don't know why they don't believe it's that important, why they're not being coached by their agents that it is that important, but it is that important. You can't just go and jerk with somebody's lives like that. All right. That said, let's get into the statistics for sales here in Lorain County this past week. All right, here we go. Episode 39 this morning at 8 a.m. So reminder to everybody, maybe if you're a newer watcher, haven't seen or understand where these statistics come from, they come from the local MLS that we here in Lorain County are working with. All these stats are from Lorain County and only Lorain County. But we use this as our sample size for not just Northeast Ohio, but the Midwest in general. And from what I've seen, it's applicable. Right now, 327 single-family homes and condos are available in the county for sale. Again, say this all the time. 5 years ago at this time, that number was over 1,000. As we continue to work through this inventory crunch, there were 70 sales last week. Again, demand remains steady, inventory remains low, and that's why prices are going to stay right where they're at, folks. You've got the median square foot value was the median square foot of homes sold last week was 1,696. The median home value of sales this last week was $222,500. The median square foot price was $142.74. We use medians for those three figures to basically look at what a typical property that's being sold here in the county is. Your typical property is not a $5 million mansion that is on the lake. It is a $222,500, 1,700 square foot ranch or colonial somewhere inland. And so that's what we're taking a look at. We get rid of the outliers, whether they're high or low, by using medians. Average day is on market for homes sold last week was 49. Again, another reminder that average days on market, that includes the contingency period. So your house gets under contract, okay? Most people would think at that point it's off the market, but it's really not. It gets moved into the contingent phase, where inspections and appraisals and all those things need to happen, okay? Not until it's moved through all those contingencies, then it goes pending, right? And of course, you got to count on the agents being timely, moving it to contingent to pending. But from the time that the house hits the market, gets under contract, moves through the contingency phase and enters its pending phase, that is reflected in days on market. So you can see, it's month and a half that houses are staying on the market through their contingency phase before coming off. That's a quick turnaround time. This morning, the market woke up 7.52% for a conventional 30-year note. You can see it's crept up the last 2 weeks. We moved up 6 basis points from the 12th to the 19th, and then yet another 9 basis points over this last week. So we opened up the year talking about how it was expected that the Federal Reserve was going to start cutting rates, and we were going to see at least one by this time. Not only have we not seen that, we have seen interest rates climb back up to its highest point. Since when? What are we doing here, Jonathan? Okay. Interest rates back up to its highest point since, what is that? 17 there. Last November. Okay. All right. So we'll finish the program here with our featured sale of the week. This is the highest grossing sale of the week, $695,000 in Avon. And we'll take a look at this beauty right here on Evergreen Road, 5-bed, 3.5-bath, 3,350 square feet, includes the walkout basement on 0.84 acres. Take a look at this brick beauty in Avon. The photography I'm not sure if this is coming up from the kitchen or what. No, because you can see the kitchen in the background, so I'm not sure where that goes. Wallpaper. I actually kind of like that print. Here's the great room, big beautiful fireplace, vaulted ceiling, wet bar inside your great room. I like the pass through from the kitchen. That's a nice feature for entertaining purposes. You can see the catwalk up above. Also a nice little feature there. Nice architectural feature. I believe that's formal dining. The pictures make it difficult to tell how this house flows. Nice kitchen. You can see some of these finishes are a touch dated. Can imagine where this house would have sold if you had all updated finishes. I'm probably guessing 800K, north of 800K. The master bedroom. Nice big closet. Nice big master bath. I could tell it was a pro photographer who did this because I've been dabbling in real estate photography, and I just recently learned the trick of how to capture a room, but still pull in the images from the outside. It's a matter of high aperture and high flash. All right. So that's it. That is our featured property of the week. Hey, thanks for joining me again, guys. We'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I love you, people.